In what is a consolidation of the return to the January to December budget cycle, President Muhammadu Buhari Thursday presented the 2021 budget, tagged the Budget of Economic Recovery and Resilience, to the National Assembly. Given the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on world economies, including Nigeria's, the 13.08 trillion naira appropriation bill is based on an assumption of crude oil production of 1.86 million barrels per day, an oil benchmark of $40 per barrel, an exchange rate of 379 naira per US dollar, a GDP growth projection at 3% and inflation closing at 11.95%.
It's estimated at 8.433 trillion naira in 2021. Today, total revenue available to fund the 2021 federal budget is estimated at 7.886 trillion naira. This includes grants and aid of 354.85 billion naira, as well as the revenues of 60 government-owned enterprises. Oil revenue is projected at 2.01 trillion naira. Non-oil revenue is estimated at 1.49 trillion naira.
Attention now shifts to the legislators who will consider the bill with a view to its speedy passage before the end of the year, hopefully. Now, how possible is this, and what might Nigerians expect with the 2021 appropriation bill? These are some of the questions we'll attempt to answer on Nigeria Today as we focus on the 2021 appropriation bill. Welcome to the program. I'm Victor Azu. Now joining us to discuss the 2021 budget proposal is Professor Ken Ife, development economist. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
We also have in the studio ALIYU. He is also an economist. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's begin right away. We now know that the 2021 budget is that of economic recovery and resilience. What is your assessment of the proposal? Let me begin with Professor Ken Ife.
The proposal is a very good one, actually. It's a major improvement over the 2020 budget. And there is a substantial, nearly 50% or more, increase in the expected revenue. And that is judiciously applied to recurrent expenditure and also to capital expenditure. Both of them are gaining. And there are marginal increases in capital expenditure compared to last year. So I think it's a good budget, and it will place us on a recovery position.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Professor Ken Ife, for your opening salvo. ALIYU, do you differ?
Definitely, the budget is an ambitious budget, and from all tradition, from the submission of medium-term expenditure framework, and looking at the basis at which some of the parameters were placed, there is hope for the economy. And at the same time, what is more important is how to manage prosperity in the budget. And managing prosperity, it has to do with geographical location, and it has to do also with the citizens of the country. So these are some of the things we want to see probably after the scrutinization of the budget by the National Assembly, to make sure that whatever that has been budgeted, especially when you mention peace in the Niger Delta, and you now assess the amount of resources that is budgeted for the oil production in that zone. So it must be translated to the welfare of the people in that same region.
All right, thank you very much. It appears, Professor Ken Ife, it appears the 2021 to 2023 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper sets the parameters for the 2021 budget. What are your views on these parameters?
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of attending the ministerial presentation of that, and I think the assumptions are very robust. $28 per barrel, which is, even though we have substantial headroom, is going around $40. We always have to have a headroom so that we can have money in our excess crude account and accretion to foreign reserves. So that's very, very important for fiscal stability and monetary system stability. But then,
okay, go ahead.
Then also the assumptions on the production volume is consistent with OPEC limits. So we have to live with that drop in our production volume. But I think we should also be thinking about reserves, crude oil reserves, so that, many countries, Saudi Arabia has huge reserves. So if you have any issue around production, there is always a reserve to call on to maintain steady output. Absolutely. So I think that's just one weakness.
But in your opinion, does this sufficiently take into consideration the fact that there is a global pandemic?
It does, actually, because we have quantitative response, fiscal response, in the region of 2.3 trillion, and also the central bank monetary authorities responded again with about 3.5 trillion on the table, and a range of measures. In fact, the statutory forbearance that is granted to the commercial banks to be able to restructure loans, plus all the injections, could account for a good reason why they showed strong performance, the financial sector, of our 18% growth of the second quarter of the GDP. So I think on that count, they are coming together. It's a bit slow though on the fiscal side, because these 774,000 jobs, I haven't seen those jobs yet, and then the time is running. But there are more that we can do, and I think this budget ties up all the loose ends. And we would hope that the devil is in the detail. We're going out and delivering the job as is provisioned.
Indeed. Now let me get back to YUSHA'U. According to the president, the oil benchmark is pegged at $40 per barrel, and an estimated daily oil production of 1.86 million barrels per day. Now, again, we're back to the issue of COVID-19. Given the uncertainty in the global oil market because, of course, of the COVID-19, what, if any, might be your concerns about these estimates?
My concern has to do with OPEC Plus, that is Russia. OPEC has been playing so much of politics, especially in stabilizing prices, so also in trying to stabilize production. So by production, Nigeria is given a free hand for about 3 years because of Burkina's interference. That is between 2019 and 2020. But
interference or intervention now?
No, intervention. Okay. Let me put it categorically, intervention. Burkina has played a good role in OPEC, and that is why Nigeria has a very good window to continue to produce 1.8. That 1.8 that is based in oil production in Nigeria at $40. $40 is visible. It's visible because of the fact that Saudi Arabia has agreed to maintain the production level and the supplies in the market. The same thing with Russia. So if we have this consistently, there is no way $40 cannot be reached in an OPEC market, because what we are expecting post-COVID, anytime there is pandemic in the world, the industry, when they are coming back in full force. So by coming back in full force, there will be more demand. And when there is more demand, it is expected that our production to continue, and if there is also peace in the Niger Delta. That is why that intervention that Mr. President highlighted of about 63 billion to establish peace at the production zone. Not only that 63, I am emphasizing it has to be translated to growth, and it has to be translated also to the prosperity of the people that are meant to benefit from it.
All right, thank you very much. Prof, again, give us your take on the President's sectoral estimates and how these might indeed accelerate economic recovery, promote economic diversification, enhance competitiveness, and ensure social inclusion as planned, as we might have heard from the President while presenting.
Well, there is remember that there is a backdrop of economic sustainability plan, which is the bedrock of this budget. And that document is actually very robust, and it ties in the economic recovery and growth plan, which is ending this year. And of course, we are now in the business of working out the 2021 to 2025 medium-term development plan. So in that, the priority has always been, and is still in this budget, to target agriculture diversification agenda, but making sure that we focus on, especially the 10 presidential value chains, who produce more of the things that we consume, and they reduce the pressure on foreign exchange. It's very, very difficult times for us on foreign exchange, and we should tighten the belt on that. So the program responds to that. Of course, you can also see more support to MSMEs and manufacturing sector. We need that because the weakest link in our economy is the link between primary agriculture and processing, the manufacturing. That's the weakest link in our economy. And over the years, the traders express themselves in that weak link, and we are importing anything and everything and dumping it and then smuggling it through the borders everywhere. So I think the budget is very, very balanced in the perspective. But I need to say something though. I'm not too comfortable about the inflation figure. The inflation is really a big challenge. But we do know too that part of the biggest drag in inflation is the position of agriculture. Agriculture sub-index is over 15%. So that keeps dragging the inflation. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, YUSHA'U, do you think that the estimates are as they should be? Is there anywhere you would have thought that there could have been a reduction, or some other areas where there could have been an increase given the situation we are in at the moment?
Looking at the size of the country, looking at the commitment of the government, and looking at the deficit, serious deficit that exists in infrastructure, the figures is not even enough, but it's good for now. But what I am more concerned is 3 trillion to use to service the debt in it. Definitely is very worrisome to have such a large sum of money going for debt servicing, but also the government has to be commended for even being courageous enough to be servicing it as at when due, because the compound nature of this servicing is also what has drilled many economies. And I think it is also high time Mr. President has highlighted in 2019 the borrowing plan. That borrowing plan, which has been scrutinized by the National Assembly, there is need to look deeply in it in order to contain other pressures that may likely come from other states that are seriously in high deficit in their financing system. But looking inward, internally generated revenue, I am happy now that Mr. President has pegged about 60 government-owned companies to be generating, to have money, because if there are leakages, definitely leakages will lead to borrowing, because in funding budget you have to look at what you are generating. And also non-oil sector, if you just check the oil contribution to the economic somewhere around 2 trillion, and then non-oil about 1 trillion, there is still much to be done. But how do we do it? We just have to check, like rightly pointed out by Professor, we have to check the diversification effort of the government. Not only checking the diversification effort, look at the food security. In my own understanding of food security, it's not just availability of food, but includes fair pricing. Because when there is much economic activity, it means that the GDP growth is going to be monitored carefully. And also the Bureau of Statistics has to make serious statistics about the epidemic that is taking a lot of production in agriculture, in case you can see a lot of flooding. So we have to check. The agricultural policy has to give more emphasis to dry farming, because dry farming will help the economy significantly.
All right, thank you very much, YUSHA'U. It's been quite interesting. It's also been a marathon. So let's take a breather at this point, and the program will return shortly. Please don't go away.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing Isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rest heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Welcome back. The program is Nigeria Today, and for those just tuning in, our focus is the federal government's 2021 budget proposal. Now, our guests are Professor Ken Ife and YUSHA'U, both economists. In your opinion, Prof, will the total budget size of 13.08 trillion naira facilitate the needed boost in the manufacturing sector and infrastructure development, both of which the country seems in dire need of? YUSHA'U had earlier talked about agriculture.
You know, to be honest with you, our revenue base is very small, the tax base, which is about 6-8%, compared to an average tax to GDP of 15% across the region, and 18% when you look at other people like Ghana, and 22% for South Africa. So we are far, far below. The optimum budget for our country, given our size, should be around 20 trillion, not 13. So, and it's all because we are not, playing up our tax revenue, but that will come over time. I'm confident about the infrastructure situation because we are still expecting the infrastructure company to kick in, which will be capitalized with 15 trillion naira, and maybe government would meet up with the obligation of giving them some $2 billion as a sovereign guarantee. That is a game changer because it's going to move the agenda away from the infrastructure agenda, take the big projects away from government, so that government can focus on all other areas, social inclusion and health. But having said that, there is promise in the budget, even though there is an increase in the debt service, but the actual debt service to revenue has dropped from over 50% in the last one to just over 40%, and that's actually very good. That's good news, because it now begins to deal with the fear of fiscal stress. You can have a very low borrowing window, as we have, well under 40%, about 30%, but you can still have fiscal stress when your debt service to your revenue is out of control. International best practice says 40%. So we are just at that 41 or something like that. Otherwise, we've had cases when it goes up to 60% because of the shortfall in revenue. So that's where we have. And I've seen some projections by World Bank that if things continue as they are, by 2025, we actually may have a debt service of about 75% or more to our revenue. So I hope we don't get there.
All right. Again, I'm just thinking, Mr. President demonstrated a clear awareness of the feelings of Nigerians when he said that Nigerians expect the budget to contain only implementable and critical projects which will address current structural challenges and improve the business environment. What are your thoughts on this, YUSHA'U?
My thought on that has to do with, in 2020, Mr. President categorically mentioned collective prosperity. When collective prosperity is mentioned, it means everybody in that economy is involved. So, but I am thinking there is need for some adjustment in these policies, especially social intervention that affect so much of the vulnerable group. And I think also Mr. President has to think beyond corridor to look at the income you know, the price level in this economy, that is what is triggering this inflation to about 11.97%. If you have an inflation of that, which is still double digit, it means that the purchasing power of individuals is going to be eroded and continuously. So, and the income is not changing, but we have to also reason to the fact that there is a fundamental problem coming to the economy from outside the economy, that is global recession. So that has to do with whatever we are consuming and what we are producing, because what makes an economy is what people are growing or producing in that economy. So if you take the production of crops in this economy, most of these crops in our policies, we don't look at the elasticity of those products, how price of one affect the next. If you check, the prices of goods skyrocketed as a result of one product affecting the other. So there is need to sit down, the anchor borrowers, to help the farmers to produce more. Also, these road infrastructures that government is trying to bring into the economy has to be more faster than expected.
All right. Thank you very much. And Prof, how impactful has the return to January to December budget cycle been? You know, barring COVID-19, that is, because if you want to judge by just the previous year, COVID-19 interfered really. So, but how impactful do you think that the return to the January to December budget cycle has been?
I think it's that's actually the biggest thing, as I see in the whole budget arrangement, the return to the January to December cycle. The thing is, the private sector works in the same cycle. And we have had tragedy for about 8 years of having tension between the assembly and the executive, with the result that 6 months every year is lost in bickering over the budget. And that means that when the budget actually then gets released in July, you take 3 months to procure, and then we're back again into another budget round. So it was so distorting, and it cost us so much pain. So I think now we have, even within our farming season is in sync with it, and then the private sector budget rounds and spending profile are all in sync. So it will energize the economy. It will help the economy very well.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. And as we gradually come to the end of our time here, let me ask YUSHA'U, for successful implementation, there has to be that synergy between the executive and legislature. Because budget defenses are just around the corner. So how significant, in your opinion, is the timely appearance of MDAs before the legislators for this critical component of the budget process? Good enough, Mr. President has already directed that MDAs should make themselves available. But how crucial is this?
It is crucial in the sense that they are the executing agencies, and at the same time, not only MDS, particularly Ministry of Finance, that is responsible for all the financial commitment, has to also be more serious than before. Time is very important in budgeting process, and at the same time, not only time, monitoring. Because whatever you invest in an economy, it has to be monitored. And this monitoring does not mean that the executive or the legislators must be monitoring, but civil society groups and individuals must be monitoring projects in their communities for development to be more.
Thank you. I'm running out of time completely. Prof, let's take the next 15 seconds, please, to your final thoughts.
My final thought is I'm really happy that the president is homing in on revenue generation. And I think we ought to support the Fiscal Responsibility Commission in the work that it does, because that's the custodian of the Fiscal Responsibility Act that talks about prudence, transparency, and accountability in fiscal management. So that's where we can pull out a lot more revenue from these 122 scheduled agencies. And I know that if we do it well, we will kiss goodbye to these financial challenges that we are having.
All right, thank you very much. And this is where we conclude this edition of Nigeria Today. Thanks to Professor Ken Ife, development economist. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
And also to YUSHA'U, also an economist, we say thank you for being with us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
And Nigeria Today returns tomorrow with the last edition for the week, but be sure to catch this and other editions on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. My name is Victor Azul. Thank you for watching.